In a peaceful village surrounded by rolling green hills and fertile farmland, there lived a kind and gentle princess named Adanne. The eldest daughter of King Chukwueze, Adanne was admired for her radiant beauty and her compassionate heart. She cared deeply for the villagers, treating them with respect and kindness. However, despite her many virtues, Adanne carried a personal burden that overshadowed her life, a lifelong struggle with an overpowering body odor. From the time she was a child, Adanne's scent had been noticeably strong. At first, the villagers dismissed it as a temporary oddity, but as Adanne grew, her odor only intensified, becoming so potent that it left a noticeable trail wherever she walked. The villagers, though initially understanding, began to avoid her. Behind her back, they whispered unkind jokes and comments, calling her the stinky princess. Mothers pulled their children away as Adanne walked past, and her childhood friends stopped inviting her to play. Her once vibrant social life faded, leaving her isolated and lonely. Adanne's isolation deepened. Embarrassed and hurt, she withdrew from the world, spending most of her days in her room at the palace. From her window, she would watch the villagers go about their lives, children playing, couples laughing, and families enjoying the simple pleasures of community. She longed to be part of their joy, but her condition made her feel like an outcast. Her heart ached for companionship and love, but the dream of finding someone who could accept her seemed impossibly far away. One sweltering summer afternoon, the sounds of celebration drifted up to Adanne's window. It was the village's summer feast day, a time of joyous festivities, music, and dancing. Adanne leaned out of her window and watched as the villagers gathered in the square. The rhythmic beat of drums filled the air, and she saw girls her age twirling in colorful skirts, their laughter ringing out like music. A deep longing stirred within her. She yearned to join the celebration, to lose herself in the joy of the moment. Summoning her courage, Adanne decided to leave the palace and observe the festivities from a distance. Dressed in a simple gown to avoid drawing attention, she quietly slipped out of the gates and made her way to the edge of the square. For a few precious moments, she stood in the shadows, watching the dancers spin and twirl around the bonfire. Her heart swelled with longing as she imagined herself among them, carefree and happy. But her brief reprieve was shattered when a sudden breeze carried her scent into the crowd. The mood shifted instantly. The music faltered, and the laughter died away as people began to wrinkle their noses and glance around, searching for the source of the smell. Slowly, all eyes turned toward Adanne. Faces that had been filled with joy moments before now twisted in shock and disgust. Whispers spread like wildfire, and some people openly gagged. Mothers pulled their children away, and the villagers moved to distance themselves from the princess. Humiliated, Adanne turned and fled, tears streaming down her face. She ran into the woods, her heart pounding with shame and sadness. Finding a secluded spot behind a large tree, she crouched down, trembling. The weight of their judgment was unbearable. She felt utterly alone, as if the world had turned against her. As she sobbed quietly, a sound reached her ears, a steady, rhythmic drumming that seemed to grow louder with each passing moment. Peeking through the branches, Adanne saw a young man approaching. He had a warm, open smile and carried a small hand drum which he played with an inviting rhythm. His presence exuded kindness and calm, and Adanne found herself mesmerized by the sound of his drum. When he reached her hiding spot, he stopped playing and looked at her with gentle eyes. "Why did you stop dancing?" he asked, his voice soft and genuine. He looked so free and joyful. Adanne stared at him in disbelief. "You can smell me, can't you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Why would you come near me?" The young man nodded slightly, acknowledging her question. "I can smell you," he said honestly, "but I don't care. When I saw you dancing, you looked so happy, so full of life. That's what matters." Tears welled up in Adanne's eyes, but this time they were not tears of sadness. No one had ever spoken to her with such kindness. Emboldened by his words, she hesitated for a moment, then stood. The young man resumed drumming, his rhythm light and playful. Slowly, tentatively, Adanne began to move in time with the beat. As she let the music guide her, her movements grew bolder and more fluid. Soon she was spinning and twirling with abandon, her heart soaring with a joy she hadn't felt in years. When the music ended, the young man introduced himself as Adanne, a traveling musician from a neighboring village. He asked if he could meet her again the next day, and Adanne, her heart lighter than it had been in years, eagerly agreed. From that day on, Adanne and Adanne met in a secluded grove by the forest. Each afternoon, he played his drum and she danced freely, unburdened by the judgment of others. Their bond deepened with each meeting, and Adanne found herself looking forward to their time together more than anything else. Adanne's acceptance gave her the courage to embrace her love of dance, and for the first time, she felt truly seen. Not for her affliction, but for the person she was inside. One day, as they sat beneath the shade of a tree, Adanne confessed his feelings for Adanne. He spoke of how her spirit and kindness had captured his heart and how he wanted to build a future with her. Overwhelmed with emotion, Adanne admitted that she felt the same way. Adanne proposed, and she accepted, her heart brimming with hope and happiness. But their joy was short-lived. A deadly plague swept through the land, spreading rapidly and taking countless lives. The villages went into lockdown, sealing their borders to prevent the disease from spreading further. Adanne and Adanne were separated, unable to see or even send word to each other. As the months dragged on, Adanne's despair grew. She longed for Adanne's comforting presence, but there was no way to reach him. One day, Adanne fell gravely ill. Her parents tried every remedy to save her, but nothing worked. As her condition worsened, the queen remembered an old tonic from Adanne's childhood. Though unpleasant, it miraculously saved her life. When Adanne finally recovered, she made a startling discovery. The illness had purged her lifelong odor. Overjoyed, she embraced her newfound confidence. But her joy soon gave way to vanity. Convinced she now deserved a noble suitor, Adanne began to distance herself from Adanne, whom she now saw as beneath her. Months later, at a grand tournament to find a husband, Adanne's old Odor returned, a result of her neglect of basic hygiene and her obsessive pursuit of perfection. Humiliated once again, she fled the arena. Adanne, who had been watching from the crowd, followed her and found her crying in the woods. "My precious one," he said gently, Why did you think so little of our love? Why would you give up what we had for the fleeting admiration of others? Tears streaming down her face, Adanne replied, I was vain and careless. I thought beauty was more important than love. I was wrong. Please forgive me. Moved by her sincerity, Aran forgave her, and their bond, now stronger than ever, proved that love and acceptance could overcome any obstacle. Together they vowed to face the future hand in hand, cherishing the connection that made their hearts whole.